One more.
It's a little way to be a hero, I guess.
That's all it takes.
To save lives, help other people, just to have that satisfaction that I'm able to help someone out.
One more.
Thank you, thank you, thank you.
To save a life.
Thank you to donors.
This is Donate Life, a WZZM 13 Healthy You special.
Welcome to this special edition of WZZM 13 Healthy You. We are at the headquarters for Michigan Blood in Grand Rapids, talking about the importance of giving one more pint of blood, one more donation to save one more life. Here are the facts. More than 4.5 million people need blood transfusions, and every 2 seconds someone needs blood. Women and girls receive 53% of blood transfusions, while men and boys receive 47%. We are now in the main donation center of Michigan Blood, and this is where the journey of a pint of blood begins. And to show you the importance of your donations, we're going to introduce you to one of the youngest recipients who needs your donation just to stay alive. 4-year-old Audrey Strock. Audrey needs a blood transfusion every 2 to 5 months because of a genetic blood disorder that she may never outgrow.
How did you reach that high?
It certainly looks like 3-year-old Audrey Strock is just like all the other kids on the playground.
Good job. You're getting really good at that.
But there's one thing that makes her different from her older brother and sister.
It's an eye-opening thing as a parent to see this with your young, beautiful child.
Audrey has a genetic blood disorder called spherocytosis. Her red blood cells are weak, causing her to be chronically anemic.
Our pediatrician is the one who noticed that she was pale.
At her 1-year checkup, on a hunch, Audrey's pediatrician tested her hemoglobin. It was dangerously low, just 6.6. Normal is between 11 and 15. A diagnosis of the genetic blood disorder meant at just a year old, Audrey would need several blood transfusions.
Once she got her first blood transfusion, she was like a different person. And then we could really, it was like, oh, this is how she should have been the entire time.
Those transfusions have now become a normal part of Audrey's life.
She goes to the hematologist probably every 2 months now, and then they tell us, okay, go and get labs done 2 weeks from now, and then we'll see you back in 2 months or something. So it's kind of a continuous.
It's become so regular over the past 2 years.
Audrey, we're just going to count to 3. And then we'll do one quick little poke, okay?
That Audrey doesn't even cry when she gets poked.
1, 2, 3. Wow, big girl. Good job. All done.
Good job.
You are so brave.
Look at you.
You are
big
amazing.
Girl.
She's more interested in where she's going to put her puppy dog sticker.
Do you want to put it on? Yeah? Okay. You pick a good spot for it. All right, that's the perfect spot.
And she even knows where she needs to go next.
The fact that she's used to it is sad to me, that she's gone through it so many times that now she's just used to it.
Once she's hooked up to the life-saving blood supply, Audrey plays for the next 3 to 4 hours until the transfusion is complete.
And they said, if the blood was not available, it could be fatal to her.
Soon Audrey will regain the pink color in her cheeks and lips, but unfortunately, it doesn't last.
We noticeably can tell that she's tired versus the other kids and the energy level and that stuff, and that's all the time.
And soon, she'll need another transfusion so she can keep up with her brother and sister.
Well, that's why we are so thankful that people do donate and continue to give, because there are so many people other than Audrey that are in need.
In need of the gift of life.
Only 3 to 4% of Americans donate blood, and if we could increase that by just 1%, we would eliminate blood shortages. If you needed a transfusion, you would expect an ample supply to be available. For Kathy Wuzarski, blood shortages never crossed her mind when her son needed more than 50 pints of blood when he was diagnosed with leukemia. Now she wants to make sure the supply never gets too low, so she's made a pledge to donate back every pint.
When he was diagnosed, they told us that they did not expect him to survive.
Leukemia. That's what 9-year-old Jerry Wuzarski was diagnosed with when his parents brought him to the doctor for some unusual bruising. His white blood cell count was more than 40 times what it should have been, and he needed 2 weeks of intensive chemotherapy, which also meant many, many pints of blood.
You never question, at least I didn't question whether or not that blood was going to be there.
But sometimes the supplies get dangerously low. This is what the current supply looks like at Michigan Blood. And there is a need for donors.
But I can't imagine the doctors being able to do everything that they could do for him, having the treatment, having everything that we needed, and not having the blood. If we didn't have the blood, he wouldn't be here today.
That's why when Kathy found out her son used more than 50 pints during his battle with leukemia, she made an instant decision.
And when I found out, I just decided right then I wanted to replace it.
And she did, religiously giving every 8 weeks until she had given back every drop.
And it took me about 10 years.
But when Kathy reached her goal, she kept going. Now, she's given more than 70 pints. Her employer, Rockford Construction, recognized her dedication to blood donation with their Charitable Heart Award.
She organized doing blood drives here at the company, and we had great turnout. A lot of people had never given blood, you know, in their life. We're downstairs, you know, laying on the cots, drinking the orange juice, eating the crackers.
Kathy's son Jerry is now 26 years old and has been cancer-free for 17 years.
To look at him today, you'd never know that he's a cancer survivor.
He's a survivor because more than 50 people gave him the gift of life, and that gratitude is what continues to inspire Kathy to keep donating.
Knowing that you're saving somebody's life with that blood donation, it's such a simple thing.
And it starts with just 1 pint.
Kathy is not alone in her desire to keep the blood supply replenished. Dick Benjamin has also dedicated most of his life to donation. He's donated 35 gallons of blood, and that's the equivalent to saving 840 lives. Recently, Dick began donating platelets because he wanted to help pediatric cancer patients. We surprised him with a visit to the Helen DeVos Children's Hospital to meet one of the many patients who benefit from his generous donation. Our surprise journey began inside the WZZM 13 news car.
Platelets can be done every single month.
As we drove down Highway 131, we talked with Dick about his monthly platelet donations.
I don't know who all gets the blood. I know the platelets usually go to the DeVos Children's Hospital.
And now Dick was going to get the opportunity to meet one of the many children who benefit from his generous gift.
Dick, do you remember when we were on the phone and you said to me, you know, someday I would really love to be inside that children's hospital?
Is that where we're going?
That's where we're going.
Oh.
It's a little overwhelming.
Oh, boy.
And something Dick can't help but show his appreciation for.
Thank you so much.
Oh, you're welcome.
Oh.
And that is just the first of many hugs he'll give today.
I had no idea this was going to happen.
It's a quick walk inside before we head to the 10th floor of the Helen DeVos Children's Hospital, the home to pediatric cancer patients. Dr. David Dickens is a pediatric oncologist and explains why people like Dick are so important.
Without platelet transfusions, patients who are undergoing chemotherapy very commonly would have problems with bleeding that won't stop.
I would like to meet you someone awesome who donates platelets.
Garrett Boz has brain cancer. He receives blood platelet transfusions an average of twice a week and is only able to continue chemotherapy because of donors like Dick.
There's a blessing in it. There's satisfaction. Meeting these kids just makes my day.
Garrett tells Dick his brain tumor was discovered because his vision was getting blurry.
When I took the MRI, they found out I had a tumor, and they tried removing it, but they couldn't take it all out. So now I'm having chemo.
And he says receiving platelet transfusions is actually kind of fun.
It's pretty much just sitting in a chair watching TV all day, which is very nice, actually.
They spend a little more time together playing Wii before it's time to say goodbye. And Dick gives his final hug of the day.
Keep up the good work. You're an inspiration to us.
And he makes a promise to continue giving Garrett the platelets he and other pediatric cancer patients need for as long as he can.
We are leaving the donation area now. When we come back, we're going to take you on the next step of the journey of a pint of donated blood. But first, here's something to think about. Organizing a blood drive. If you need a little inspiration, you'll meet one West Michigan girl who can provide it, and she is only 10 years old. And next, what type are you? As we head into the lab, we'll show you why it's so important to know if you ever find yourself in an emergency. And as we take a break, here's why one West Michigan donor gives blood.
Well, I started donating to get out of class and get cookies in high school. And then after high school, when I was 19, I had brain surgery to remove a tumor. And through that experience, I really observed how much blood donations and the whole medical community makes a real difference.
Welcome to the lab. This is where pints of blood go after they've been donated. They have components separated out of them, like platelets and plasma in this centrifuge. This is also where blood is typed. Do you know your blood type? You might not think it's an important piece of information, but it is if you ever get into an emergency.
In the entire world, there are only 8 different blood types found in the human body, and they are specific to our different heritages.
The Northern European is most likely an A. The more Mediterranean individuals are more likely O's. And then if you get into Poland, Czechoslovakia, and actually some of the African American populations, you get an increase in B's.
The most popular blood type is O positive. 39% of the world's population has it. A positive is the second most popular at 31%. After those two, the numbers go down drastically. Only 9% of the population has B positive and O negative. 6% has A negative, 3% AB positive, 2% B negative, and only 1% of the world's population has AB negative blood.
And, you know, with the heavy Dutch population in this area, we're more likely to be A's.
Leanne Whitecamp is the medical director for Michigan Blood. She says hospitals will always make sure you're matched with your specific blood type unless there's an emergency. That's where the universal blood donor O negative comes in. Anyone with O negative blood can safely give to any blood type. I happen to be O negative.
Although you're only 9% of the general population, we use over 20% of that type in terms of what the hospitals need.
The drawback? O negatives can only accept O negative blood.
If I give you my blood, which has the A marker on it, your antibody attaches to those red blood cells and then pops them right inside your blood vessels.
But don't worry, it's not something that's likely to happen now that type testing has become a standard part of blood donation.
When we look to transfuse blood, we try to make it what's called type specific.
It takes about 2 to 3 weeks for your body to replenish your blood supply once you donate, but you'll have the satisfaction of knowing that your blood went to help save a life.
AB blood is the universal plasma donor. It's used predominantly in cancer patients receiving chemotherapy. Blood drives hosted by companies, schools, or churches supply about half of the blood donations across the country, and that's true here in West Michigan. A program started by Michigan Blood makes those drives doubly beneficial. Up next, how it can help encourage more donations during a time when donors are hard to come by. And as we go to break, here's another reason why someone in West Michigan donates blood.
I donate because I've lost family and friends to leukemia and cancer, and this is the best way I can think of to honor their memory.
I want to show you something. This is the refrigerator Michigan Blood uses to store all of the donations you give. Red blood cells can be stored in here for 42 days. Plasma can be frozen for a year. 1 pint of blood can save several lives. It saved the life of a Coopersville mother, and that inspired her daughter to organize a blood drive.
Here, hand me the shovel.
What were you doing when you were in 5th grade? Looking for that lost item in your locker? Good job. Maybe getting your class picture taken. You probably weren't thinking about organizing a blood drive, but 10-year-old Shelby Lynn Meinsma is.
When my mom went into the hospital, she needed blood, and we waited.
Because not just any blood would do. Shelby's mother, Catherine, was relying on someone to donate a very specific type of blood with very specific antibodies. There was no guarantee that a donor would come through.
I was nervous at some point.
Shelby's mother has a rare disease called Evans syndrome.
This disease has cells that destroy the blood cells, so sometimes I have gotten a blood transfusion and immediately had to have another one because my numbers, I like basically tore through the blood.
Shelby was inspired by that long night of waiting.
I asked my mom, how do you get blood?
And out of that simple question came an idea. to put together her own blood drive.
Because I don't want anybody else to be in the situation that I have been in.
Shelby partnered with Michigan Blood, put posters up around town, and waited for her first donation. She never expected to have so many people willing to donate.
I beat the record for Coopersville for most blood donations.
Shelby Lynn's mother will need blood transfusions for the rest of her life. Her weekly trips for a blood test let her know when it's time. In the last year, she's had 8 transfusions that equal 64 pints of blood.
I've used a lot of blood products in the past year, and I think Shelby Lynn's goal was to always pay it back tenfold.
She's certainly on her way. Shelby's in the process of organizing her 5th blood drive.
It's good to know that there is lots of blood for people.
And it's good to know there are so many people willing to help a little girl keep her mother's blood in stock by giving just one more.
Bye, Mama.
We mentioned earlier about half of all blood donations are provided by blood drives held by schools or companies. And that's why during the summer, shortages are more likely to occur because school is out and workers are on vacation. So Michigan Blood came up with a program to increase donations by helping local groups fundraise. For over 25 years, Rockford High School has held blood drives during the school year.
And I think our last drive we had almost, I think around 160 pints.
The last several years, they've been organized by the school's Youth Initiatives program as part of their charity work that also includes canned food drives and raising money for the Muscular Dystrophy Association. And it seems that their efforts are about to pay off, literally.
We're going to give $10 for everybody who attempts to donate blood in the name of an organization, and we'll donate the money to that organization.
Michigan Blood created a new program called Summer Step Up. It's a way to help organizations like Rockford's Youth Initiatives earn fundraising dollars while helping Michigan Blood get additional donations during their busiest time of the year, summer.
We can always use the money. The more money we have, the more we can do for this community and beyond our communities.
Last year, Rockford's Youth Initiatives raised $40,000 to build a Habitat for Humanity home for a family of 6.
And it was such a great experience being able to walk up into that house with the kids, being able to show them their bedrooms, being able to say, this is where you live now. It's like a feeling that you can never really explain, a feeling that you can really only get with this kind of opportunity.
Now those projects will have added support in the way of funding through Michigan Blood's Summer Step Up program. It makes Colin think about all the possibilities for the future.
We'll be able to do Habitat for Humanity, help out with them, and be able to do can drives and clothing drives too.
And of course, blood drives, giving donors the opportunity to give just one more while supporting their local schools.
The Summer Step Up program lasts from June to August, and any group that supports a school or local kids can take advantage. Just contact Michigan Blood toll-free at 1-866-MI-BLOOD. And you can use that same number if your company, church, or school wants to have a blood drive. Up next, a few final thoughts about giving one more, and a treat you can get if you decide to roll up your sleeve. But first, a final reason why somebody donates blood.
I always think, okay, what if I know the 3 people or just one of the persons that I know who is going to get this blood, and it just makes all the difference.
For a person donating blood, their final step is a snack and a little rest period. And some of those snacks were donated by a group of local Girl Scouts who hope their donation will encourage others to give. The Girl Scouts of Michigan Shore to Shore handed over more than 3,000 boxes of their cookies to Michigan Blood in May. The boxes were paid for by customers who recently bought Girl Scout cookies. They will be available for blood donors at mobile drives.
It's a really great way for 2 really great organizations to partner together, because this is what our community is all about, organizations working together to help the community overall.
We're back at the beginning of the journey of a pint of blood to show you where that journey ends. This is Lisa Doctor, and her life was saved by blood donated here in Michigan. Tell me a little bit about your story.
4 years ago, I had an emergency C-section. After my C-section, I had internal bleeding, and I needed 2 pints of blood. 2 days later, I needed 2 more pints. It really saved my life.
And what would you like to say to the donors?
Thank you. Thank you so much. Their donations mean the world to me. I can be a mother, and I can be a wife.
All right. Thank you so much, Lisa, for joining us. Here's one more fact for you. If you started donating blood at the age of 17 and you gave every 56 days till you were 79 years old, you would have donated more than 46 gallons of blood. And if you need more information on how to become a donor, go to WZZM13.com and click on Healthy You. We leave you now where the journey begins, with a pint of blood, with me, as I give one more. Thanks for joining us, and remember, a better life starts with a healthy you. Coming up today on WZZM 13 Healthy You. Depending on where you are, just breathing can up your cancer risk. The latest study linking diesel fuel to lung cancer. And you might think you're lowering your chances of skin cancer by getting a spray tan, but new evidence shows just how toxic it can be for our bodies. And this latest way doctors on the lakeshore are making sure heart attack patients get the fastest care, and it starts on their iPhone. And nearly half of all Americans live with some type of chronic pain. We'll answer your questions about how to deal with it in today's Just Ask. I'm Val Lego. That's all coming up right now on WZZM 13 Healthy You. Welcome to WZZM 13 Healthy You. First today, they may be better for the gas mileage, but the fumes that come from diesel engines have been linked to causing cancer. This week, the World Health Organization's Cancer Agency ruled the exhaust could be as important as a health threat as secondhand smoke. The risk of getting cancer from diesel fumes was small, but since so many people breathe them in, the panel says raising the status to carcinogen was important. The classification followed a week of discussion. Officials say there could be many cases of lung cancer connected to the contaminant. A person's risk depends on many variables, but the thousands of particles, including harmful chemicals in the exhaust, could cause inflammation in the lungs over time, leading to cancer.
The number one finding is that diesel exhaust exposures are carcinogenic to humans, a group 1 carcinogen, the highest level you can possibly have. We also reviewed gasoline exhaust and the carcinogenicity of gasoline exhaust, and there was very little human evidence that was sufficient to support a known human carcinogen cause.
The reclassification of diesel exhaust puts it into the same category as things like asbestos or UV radiation. Experts say further studies are needed to check any potential danger. Well, we all know the risks of sunbathing in tanning beds, and that has led millions to try chemical tan sprays as a safer alternative. But with the help of a hidden camera, ABC's Mark Greenblatt has discovered that those spray tans may come with new risks we didn't even know.
It's billed as the safe alternative to tanning beds, but what spray tanners may not know, the chemical inside that spray, what actually turns your skin brown, is only approved for external use, like in lotions, not for spray tanning. The concern, you might inhale it.
It's winding up in your respiratory system and be very concerned about the potential for lung cancer. It needs further investigation.
She's one of a half-dozen medical experts concerned after reviewing 10 lab studies obtained by ABC about that chemical DHA. One calls it a potential human health hazard. Another says it can cause DNA damage, which could lead to birth defects. The FDA is clear. DHA should not be inhaled or ingested and tells consumers to protect their eyes, nose, and lips.
I'm rolling.
But when we sent our hidden cameras to a dozen salons,
Do you offer protection?
every salon discouraged us from wearing any protective gear.
You don't need it. You really don't need it. We wouldn't recommend for you to wear them because when you spray your face, that part is going to be not tan.
Most saying just close your eyes and hold your breath.
Do you have nose plugs though if I wanted to wear something?
Honey, you're fine. You're fine, okay? For years and years we do this, so no worry, okay?
Online, some salons even claim you can eat DHA, that it's food grade and approved for ingestion by the FDA. But get this, they're confusing two completely different kinds of DHA, both with the same abbreviated name. One tans your skin, the other a health supplement.
Food-grade DHA, suntan DHA. Isn't that misleading to the American public?
I don't believe it is anybody's intent to mislead, and there's no reason to believe that it's unsafe.
That's Joe Levy, the industry man in charge of educating U.S. tanning salons. So what does he say about all those studies, calling DHA a potential health hazard?
Mark, I haven't seen any of them.
You're the head of the education for tanning salons. You haven't heard of any of these studies?
Mark, no.
And that was Mark Greenblatt reporting. Even just a few hours of meditation training may help with anxiety, depression, and even addiction. Researchers found that meditating actually changes the brain's white matter associated with self-regulation. The study involved 30 minutes of integrative body-mind training over a 2-week period for a total of 5 hours. Researchers believe the evidence of being able to alter the brain's white matter through meditation gives hope with those with mental disorders. The complete article can be found in the Proceedings of the National Academy of Sciences. If you find yourself slowing down as you get older, it could be a sign that some thinking problems are ahead. Researchers at the University of Portland studied 93 people ages 70 and older who lived alone. They were given memory and thinking tests and had their walking speeds monitored for 3 years. People with non-memory mileage cognitive impairment were 9 times more likely to be slow walkers. Doctors with the Cleveland Clinic who provided this video say this could be a clue to problems as people age.
If you find that you're walking slower, someone tells you you're walking a lot slower than usual, you've been slowing down over the years, that's something to tell your doctor, and that may be a clue, an indicator that you really should look a little bit more deeply. Is there something going on with cognitive functioning?
Researchers say more studies are needed. When it comes to a heart attack, there's only one way to increase your chances of surviving: getting the care you need as fast as possible. And to do that, Mercy Health in Muskegon is using some new technology to cut response times by nearly half an hour.
And I started feeling an unusual feeling in my chest, something that I had never felt before.
That feeling started about 8 a.m. and by 8:30, the pain had increased, and 63-year-old Dave Schoendorf knew he was having a heart attack.
The pain and the pressure, starting to perspire profusely.
A coworker called 911, and within 10 minutes, Dave was being rushed to Mercy Health Hospital in Muskegon. Paramedics sent Dave's EKG to the emergency department, where new software technology called LifeNet helped shave nearly 30 minutes off his diagnosis.
And we open it up, enlarge it, evaluate it, and then if we are concerned that this patient needs to go emergently to the catheterization lab, then we can push a button here which will send it to the cardiologist.
It goes right to the smartphone of cardiologists like Dr. Daniel West.
I can see the full EKG when I scrunch it down, and when I broaden it, I can look at each individual complex on the EKG to determine whether I think that it's really a heart attack.
Dr. Daniel West with West Shore Cardiology is impressed not only with the quality, but with how fast LifeNet notifies him of a potential heart attack patient.
So it's one of the major advances that I've seen since I've been in cardiology at reducing the risk for complications from heart attack.
Complications like damaged heart muscle that could affect a patient's outcome for the rest of their life. Because when you're having a heart attack, minutes matter.
A heart attack is really death of heart muscle. If you interrupt blood flow for longer than 30 minutes, you're going to get some damage.
In Dave's case, a stent helped restore blood flow to his heart in less than an hour.
We have cut in half and almost cut to a third the amount of time that it took to relieve the blockage and therefore restore blood flow to the patient's heart muscle.
Which means patients like Dave Schoendorf have a better chance of having a healthy heart for the rest of their life. The LifeNet technology is a way for cardiologists to get you the help you need faster, but you can help yourself by knowing the signs and also by taking care of your heart with a healthy diet and exercise program. For tips on ways to do just that, log on to WZZM13.com and click on Healthy You. Nearly half of Americans live with a pain every day. We'll talk about why chronic pain happens and answer your questions in today's Just Ask. But up next, how one local woman turned her cancer journey into a top-selling book. A cancer journey is not only a personal one, but it can be a painful one physically and emotionally. And each patient needs to find their own way of dealing with their diagnosis and treatment. Sometimes it helps to cry, sometimes it helps to laugh, and sometimes it helps to do both at the same time. Joining me now is Kim Sorrell, a local cancer survivor now and author of the book who wrote Cry Until You Laugh. Thank you so much for joining us. I've enjoyed reading excerpts of it. It's been such an enjoyable story because it really brings you into that moment of all of the things that you were going through. Is that what kind of inspired you to want to write the book?
Well, I started, first of all, just to update my family and friends instead of calling everybody and saying, hey, now I'm going to this doctor and this is when surgery is and all of that kind of thing. Instead, I wrote emails, and the emails became so much more than just what was going on physically. And so they went out to a whole lot of people. And I was diagnosed with breast cancer in September of 2008. Started my journey then, and then 4 months later, my husband was diagnosed with pancreatic cancer. And 6 weeks after that, he passed away.
Yeah, that is one of the most devastating cancers to have, for sure, yeah.
Yeah, it's a very quick one, very fast and very painful, but we had great doctors. There's great people in Grand Rapids, Michigan, praise the Lord.
So you documented that as well?
Yes, I kept
thing.
writing during the whole thing. And so it wasn't just my own personal physical journey, but that with the man that I adored for 29 years and the father of my children, and to see his faith and his grace in the face of death.
Yeah, and you were able to document this through emails. But what made you say, I think this might make a good book?
Well, I was kind of pushed that way. I had so many people, because it became not just family and friends, but people were passing it on. And pretty soon about 5,000 people were reading my blog emails. And so, yeah, so it
became this particular book. What I love about this book is that you found a way to publish it yourself. Tell me about that.
Yes, well, it's the wave of the future when it comes to publishing, that's for sure. It's I worked with Freeze Frame Publishing and Color House Graphics. They're both in Grand Rapids, Michigan. Laura Hughes with Freeze Frame Publishing
was relatively
fantastic.
Inexpensive.
Yes, absolutely. The process is painless. It's just a matter of getting connected with the right people. And it's a great way to put your words on paper.
Yeah, and you get to design the whole thing, and I absolutely love it. So, and you actually ran out of the first copies, and you had to make more.
Yes, yeah, it's selling. It's doing pretty good.
So even if you think that, oh, maybe nobody's going to want to read this, you might be wrong. So if you've got thoughts, you know, others have thoughts of something that they want to write down, whether it's through cancer or something else, it's an inspiration to do so. Thank you so much for stopping by and sharing your book with us. I hope that more people pick it up and read it, and it inspires some other cancer patients as well. If you would like to learn more about Kim's book, just go to WZZM13.com and click on Healthy You. Everybody deals with pain, but many people can't seem to get any relief. Up next, we're talking about chronic pain, and we'll answer your questions about how to deal with it in today's Just Ask.